Welcome back to Creative Culture. My name is Steve Ramsey, and this is a podcast about creativity and culture. Mostly it's about creative people. I want to thank John Spontgen for becoming the newest producer of the show. You can also help produce the show by pitching in a little over at patreon.com/creativeculturepod. I'll send you a couple of stickers. You'll get early access to the audio episodes, usually a week or so early, and you'll get access to the full, raw, unedited version of this show that exists, the video version of this show that exists nowhere else.
So if I say fuck, they get the unedited version?
I don't edit out fuck. The only thing I do is I edit out me stuttering.
Okay, just checking.
The audio version is like pristine, but the video, I tried when I first started this podcast, I tried editing it out, and it was just taking me forever to edit those videos, the way I like it, because it was like I've done editing the audio, but you can't edit video the same way. Otherwise, it's just so choppy. It just looks really dumb. So I don't know. Someday I'll figure out something to do with that. But you can also watch this show. You can listen to this show on YouTube. We were just talking about this. So I've been dumping this show. I say that real romantically. I've been dumping the show on YouTube. So I've got the Creative Culture podcast on YouTube where it's just audio, but some people like to listen that way. I don't know if you're on YouTube, they don't want to mess with Spotify or Apple or whatever. So that's just another option. And I wanted to remind everybody that is listening to this that what really helps is if you leave a glowing review and just rate this podcast. One of those star ratings on Apple or Spotify. That only takes you a second. You can think of it as guilt tipping, except it's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. So anyways, I'm happy to have Jared Polin from FroKnowsPhoto back to the show. We got a shit ton of stuff to talk about, so hold on to your seat. Jared, today's your 13th YouTube anniversary.
Yeah, it's 13 years of launching FroKnowsPhoto.com, the website, and officially rebranding my YouTube channel, which was just places that I put basic videos, to FroKnowsPhoto. So I wrapped it in a big wrapper 13 years ago today, from my dad's house, from my brother's bedroom, where I didn't pay rent as a 29-year-old, and now I sit in my studio after purchasing another building yesterday, another one. So like from no money sitting in my dad's house to 13 years later, 5 properties, and we still run the FroKnowsPhoto stuff. So
what are you doing with all these buildings? Are you just landlording them and renting them out, or are you going to be moving into this new one you just bought?
Yeah, I'll be moving into the new one. So basically, the very first one I bought was in 2013, and I lived there, and we made videos out of there for a couple of years, until it got to the point where it was just a pain in the ass to break everything down every day. We would break it down because I lived there. I mean, I say lived there. I had a sofa, my big screen TV, projector, my podcasting table, my office, and my bedroom was upstairs in the loft. I mean, it was just, it was more like a studio that I lived in, even though it was in a condo building. But I rent that out now, right? So technically, I'm a landlord there, and I pay rent to myself. Fro Factory 1 and Fro Factory 2 for both of those different buildings. FroKnowsPhoto pays rent to that. So it's, that's how businesses do it. You own a building, you start a LLC for that, and then you pay yourself rent. But my goal is to get a renter into my current studio and move into the new place, which is a live-work style environment, and collect rent over here. So, I mean, it's pretty insane. I never expected any of that. It just has happened.
Yeah, I just had my 15th YouTube anniversary last month.
Nice.
It's crazy to think of that long. Give me a pearl of wisdom, something you've learned over 15 years on YouTube.
I don't know. Don't chase trends. Don't turn your channel into only shorts and then realize that you killed all of your followers because shorts wasn't thought out well by YouTube and they didn't separate the two very well. And you're now people are trained to watch videos for 60 seconds. And if you give them anything longer, the best advice is consistent quality content since day one. That it's consistent quality content. Do the stuff that you're good at. Try some new things every once in a while. See how that does. But consistent quality content giving your audience stuff that you enjoy and that you feel they'll enjoy as well, and just interact. I mean, it's you don't try to chase the algorithms. Just put out consistent quality content.
I was talking to Chad about this just yesterday, and I kind of, at this point, regret my early attempts at shorts, because I think it did more damage to my channel than I thought it was going to be doing. And there were a lot of us who were worried about that. We're like, well, I don't know if that's such a good thing. And I mean, sure, shorts will increase the number of subscribers, which doesn't mean anything. You'll get a lot more views. But over time, I think it kind of erodes your channel. I would suggest, if somebody wants to do shorts, to put those on a second channel, because it's just going to, I think it just messes with everything on your long form content. And you look at these channels, there's channels now who have started in the last couple of years who do just shorts. They're just shorts channels. They're basically doing TikTok stuff on YouTube. And then inevitably what happens is they get to this point where they're like, I'd like to make some money. Everybody told me you could make money on YouTube. And then they say, I'm going to start making my long form content now. And nobody watches that, because you're just watching, you're used to this one thing. I'm making, funny videos about, my woodworking or whatever. And then the next video you have is this long video of like, here's a deep dive into table saw use.
it just doesn't translate, and it doesn't work. And I noticed it very early. YouTube was trying to, we have YouTube creator partners, which I haven't heard from in a while, but, they for a long time were trying to push, hey, do these
really
shorts,
hard.
do 5 a week. And I'm like, no, like, you guys can't tell me how it's going to affect my channel.
Did you ever do any shorts?
I maybe have 5.
Oh, okay.
I wrote some good ones. Like, we did some really quality. We had one that hit 1 million views, and it added 5,000 or 6,000 subscribers, but they're the wrong subscribers. They're not people that are going to be long form customer or clients or fans and followers. They're people that just want that dopamine hit of just swiping. And that's what shorts end up being. And you were talking about reactionary. YouTube is very reactionary in that situation, where they have gone away from the core model of consistent quality content, right? Long form content is YouTube's bread and butter. Not saying they shouldn't evolve and shouldn't iterate, but when you're trying to chase after TikTok, but the problem with YouTube Shorts, and Steven said it to me, my first employee, my best employee, no, my first employee, he said to me, the reason that they don't work is they're not shareable. Where on Instagram, Reels seem to work because you can instantly click a button and send it to a friend. You can't do that. Yeah. No one is sending a link to a short because you can't figure out how to send a link to a short. And when someone gets it, they're not going to click and launch it because you have to text it or email it. Whereas Instagram, you just post it or send it into their DM, and it's good. And that's why Reels seem to be getting some better traction, and I think shorts are dumb, and I think shorts are dead, and that's why we chose not to go all in, we didn't even dip our toe in. I wanted to see how we could do with a couple of them, and they progressively got less and less views to the point where you put one up and you'll get like 6,000 views on
now
it.
the views have really throttled. One thing is they're not showing up in your subscription or home feed anymore, because they've definitely separated those a little better than it was. They're in that little shorts shelf. But my initial thought on those when they came out, this was in like 2019, and I was experimenting with them, and I thought, well, this could work for search. If Google is planning on integrating this into their Google search, where I want to learn how to, remove a busted screw or something like that. It's a simple thing. You don't need a 5-minute video on it. Here's a quick, simple answer. Somebody could do it on the fly, but that's not the way they're working. In fact, I don't think shorts are searchable at all. If I search for something even in YouTube, shorts don't come up as a search result. So they're definitely not looking at shorts as any sort of, useful instructional type of video, which I thought would be cool, because, you go to Google, people are searching for a quick answer to something. They don't want all the bullshit. They want to just go to Google. They don't even go to YouTube. They just hit Google and say, how do I do this thing? And now you get that little snippet, within a video, it tries to find a little bit. But
now they're going to ChatGPT, and like I did yesterday, trying to get information on that I couldn't do. That I went to Google to find some, like, I need to test out a lens, and the lens is designed for doing astrophotography, and I wanted to find the best location near Philadelphia for me to do astrophotography. And when I Googled it, I came up with old results. I came up with stuff that just didn't give good information. One thing was 4 hours away. That's too far. And so I went to the GPT and I typed in there places near Philadelphia, like top places in New Jersey to go do astrophotography, and it wrote it up, and it gave me some tips, and it gave me some locations to check out, and I was like, well, that was better than the other search because it gave it back to me. And you could
follow up. You could follow up with another question.
Exactly.
You don't have to keep, and so you can kind of deep dive on it. So ChatGPT, I think, is working pretty well for what I've seen. I mean, it obviously has problems. It's still pretty new, but I like the fact that you can just keep talking to it and try to just fuck with it. But I've been using this Google Bard. This is their version of this thing. And it's garbage.
I didn't even download it. They offered it.
It's complete garbage. I mean, it just has factually incorrect answers. It's just like making things up. I was asking it like about, who are the most popular woodworkers on YouTube? And it of course, it didn't even list me. And then I was saying, why didn't you list me? And they were like, oh, we're sorry. Yes, Steve Ramsey is a woodworker on YouTube. And I said, well, what is like his most popular video? This should be simple,
for Google,
right?
Yeah.
It says, Steve Ramsey is known for his birdhouse video. I've never made a birdhouse. This is just like totally, it just makes this up. But I can imagine somebody reading that and go, oh, wow, I guess so. He made a birdhouse video.
Yeah. Yeah. So what let's see, OpenAI was basically backed by Microsoft. And that's why they've incorporated it into Bing, and they've incorporated it into their 365. And so Microsoft, going to come out of nowhere with some of this stuff and just kind of, they caught the market off what's the word? Oh, Jesus, I can't even think right now. I don't know. My dad just called me, which confused me for a quick second as I hit do not answer. But they caught everyone off guard by launching the OpenAI when they did, which then sent Google, who was probably working on AI, to then be like, shit, we got to get Bard out here real quick. And then you have Apple that really hasn't. They've been pretty quiet on this front right now.
Yeah. I think that it's everybody right now is rushing to throw something out there and slap an AI label on it.
Right.
And I think here's what I've been thinking so much about AI this over the past few months. And so, I'm old enough to remember all kind of the major leaps in technology. I remember when Apple II computer came out when I was in school, and it was really exciting. And I had friends who had, we put the floppy disks in. I remember the early internet and coming up with websites, and all of these technologies, the first smartphones, were very exciting, and people were excited about it. There were some people who were scared. There was some fear involved in all these new technology, but with AI, I don't see fear or excitement. Really, I just see everybody just seems kind of depressed by it. It seems like it's like we kind of know, oh, this is just a done deal. This is just going to happen, and what are we going to do? We just throw our arms up. Nobody seems to be like really thrilled about any of these technologies. It seems like they're coming for art first.
Well, I mean, I listened to a podcast called Pivot with Scott Galloway, Kara Swisher, and Scott Galloway is all in on all of these AI technologies for making his life better in terms of search and education and coming up with ideas for new videos and posts that he's creating, and also research that becomes fact-checked, right? You fact-check it after the fact. I mean, you can fact-check in real time, but you can't take everything that it says as if it's true. But I don't... Look, it's not depressing me. I mean, you get these people that are like, it's going to take away jobs. Well, just like cars took away jobs from saddle makers, and ice refrigerators and freezers took away jobs from the ice haulers. This stuff changes, and you figure out how to evolve into it. You figure out how to incorporate it into your work to make you better at what you do. Because, I mean, we've been using AI without knowing we've been using AI. Like every time you picked up an iPhone and it's like, oh, are you going to work right now? Right? It's like it intelligently knows to give you the directions to work because you're leaving at the same time that you left yesterday, and it knows that you went to this location. So it's learning your patterns and it's figuring out what you want to do. I'm not afraid that it's going to take away jobs, because I also think it's going to create jobs. These technologies seem to be able to do that. In the photo community, though, there is a lot of fear. In the illustration and designer community for artists, they are fearful. And I did a whole podcast on that a while back. I
want to talk about that MidJourney. You did some samples using MidJourney AI, which seems to me, I've played around with a couple of these. This one seems to be the most, like, I don't know. It seems to be the most realistic. Some of the other ones just look awful.
Yeah.
when it generates something. But you had described those pictures you put on Instagram. It was amazing.
Well, so, one of them is a child in 1940 taken in the style of a Leica with a 50 millimeter lens standing on the street, and it spits you out a kid that looks like he's in the 1940s with cars from the 1940s behind him.
It really does.
In black and white. Now, is it perfect? The answer is no. It's not.
On first glance, though, it looks really good.
Right. First glance, it looks good. I did one for a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor standing on the tracks in Auschwitz, which then got denied by it said this is not right, and I appealed it, because you can click a button to appeal it, and then it instantly cleared it and did the results, but it wasn't Birkenau, right? It didn't show exactly, but the physical features of the person looked like a 90-year-old gentleman standing on train tracks. So that stuff was interesting. And then I got into even more detail and said, do a photo of Janis Joplin backstage lounging on a sofa while drinking a bottle of Southern Comfort in the style of Jim Marshall, shot black and white with a Leica 50 millimeters, because that's what he did. Like, I wanted to see if I could replicate one of his famous images.
Yeah.
And it can't get the hands right? It can get the hands.
It's always with the hands,
but it can't hold the bottle right. But it's still amazing what people have done with it, because what you can do with MidJourney is you can keep refining the terms until you get exactly what you're looking for. Now, when I typed in there a Parisian woman sitting at a cafe drinking tea in front of the Eiffel Tower, you do end up with the watermark from an image that it scraped off the internet somewhere. Mm-hmm. So what is it stealing? What is copywritten? You know that it's scraped the internet and is using someone. It's putting a watermark there because it saw that the image that it used had a watermark there.
I know.
So it's, in essence, taking someone else's images and morphing it, and you can still see that there's remnants of that. And so that's why a lot of the artists were like, it's stealing, I should be getting paid. And it's like, I mean, kinda, yeah, but you're not going to get paid. So it's just not going to happen.
I think a lot of the concern isn't necessarily for fine artists, although they have a concern over the theft aspect of it. But as far as like graphic designers, I could see where a company wants to get a new logo, or they just want to have a quick brochure or a trade show, handout or something. Why bother hiring a graphic designer? I mean, right now it's still a little rough, but I can imagine within a year it's going to be pretty damn good, where you can just describe what you want, and it will design everything.
It does it. I mean, and last week Adobe released a Photoshop beta.
Oh my God, I tried. Did you try the Photoshop thing?
With generative AI. I didn't download the beta yet, but
I did.
It
is utter garbage. Oh, so here's the thing.
I've seen it work pretty well though.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Because I've only seen the examples they gave, and so I tried to duplicate that. I had like a picture of me in my front yard. You could see the street behind me. So the first thing I thought is I'll do the thing that they showed in their examples, put double yellow lines on the street. It like erased my face, and it couldn't do it behind me. It's kind of like, and then I said, well, remove this plant. Sure, it does that. It's just like basically a clone stamping tool. I could do that just easily. So then I thought, well, I'll do the fun thing. I say, add a beard to my face. It totally fucked that up. It replaced my entire face with just like a stock photo. I'm like, you can get filters for Instagram that add a beard to your face better than this.
Well, what I've seen from some of the photography community is, it was a portrait of a girl basically wearing a bra on a bed, and the guy's like, I want to put a sweater on her, and he drew the lines around the body, put a feather of 5 pixels or 6 pixels on it, and typed in their gray sweater, and it instantly put on a perfect sweater for that. I saw another one where they put earrings on the model because they didn't have earrings, or they changed a necklace around, or they put a crown on them, which was amazing. And then the latest thing was taking album covers like Nirvana, right, where the baby's in the water, having extra room and showing the kid basically being in the ocean with sharks swimming around, and it looks incredible. So it probably has to be refined, and it's still in beta. But from the stuff that I've seen with photographers, removing other photographers from the backgrounds, which obviously isn't anything new in that way, but changing up a dress or you could change the wedding dress that someone is wearing. Just things like that. But the difference here, I think, is that Adobe has permission to use the images that they're using. Because unlike MidJourney, who scraped everything, Adobe has Adobe stock, and they're figuring out somewhere in their license agreements how they can use what they use to generate the images that they're generating.
I asked it to put a pickup truck parked on the street, and it did pretty well. It just kind of made this generic silver looking pickup truck. The proportion was weird. It didn't quite fit the street. It looked like a model car or something in there, but it also picked up a lot of this background of whatever this photo was from. It had a really hard time isolating that image, and so I think that it probably works really well in the same instances where we can work really well, like selecting a subject on a plain background or something. It's really good at that, but I think it's confused. I had a real hard time, but I'm going to play with it some more and see what happens. But all of these companies, they really are really rushing this out. I had a person who was working on the AI at Adobe. I met her and asked her if she would do the show. She was really excited about, talking about AI, but Adobe shut it down. They were like, we need a list of questions. They were like being super cagey. And I'm like, why are they being so mysterious about their product? I don't know.
Well, so I think this is less of a flavor of the month as the metaverse and Web 3.0 was. Like if you go back and you listen to some of the things I talked about when Web 3.0 and the metaverse was being thrown around, and I called bullshit back then. I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. Web 3, like what? Like the whole decentralizing of the internet, and they want to then take it. It's like just dumb shit, and that's why it just didn't work. I mean, today Zuckerberg announces a new Meta Quest 3. Like he keeps burning $10 billion.
Nobody's using
doing
this
it.
stuff.
No one wants it. The metaverse doesn't make sense. So it was just like NFTs. Right? What are they going to have? A resurgence?
I remember those. Whatever happened to NFT?
Are they going to have a resurgence? Like Gary Vaynerchuk did. He does his whatever the hell he does. Not Vid Summit, VidCon for NFTs, and it's like, well, last year it was at a football stadium. This year, where the hell was it?
It's in a high school gym someplace. I don't know.
Yeah, the technology changes. But there is a lot of money being thrown around for everything AI. Something will come out of this one, but I think the fear thing is the news again throwing a bunch of stuff out there, being like AI could end the world. Yeah, I mean we all saw Terminator. It kind of makes sense if you tell the computer to stop the damage. Whoever's causing the damage is going to be, well, the humans are the ones doing it.
I think some of the best things that are going to come out in the short term with AI have to do with research. And I think that's really exciting to me, is that you can, it can comb through a century worth of papers and make these connections that one human just can't do in a lifetime, and so that could be exciting for, medical discoveries, all kinds of things.
I listened to one doctor who was an anesthesiologist who was using it to get suggestions for medical purposes. Now, he could go and ask 11 other doctors what they think, and he said that the majority of the stuff that it was spitting back was legitimate and made sense. Now, of course, you still, as a doctor, need to rely on your expertise, but the information that he was getting back and the ideas that he was getting back were sound and had come in handy. So think of it from a paralegal standpoint. Lawyers, right? How many paralegals do you need to go search for something when you can have a database for AI for every single case in the history of law in the United States be attainable with an AI? Imagine being a defendant and search, or even a wrongfully convicted person incarcerated in prison, able to search for whatever they need to search for to help them find information to set themselves free, which they're wrongfully convicted. Yeah. But imagine you have a defendant. You know what you're defending from. You type in these parameters into the AI. It starts to spit you out cases, and then you could go even deeper and say cases that won, cases that lost. Why did they lose? Now you start to see what happened. Where did we, and you start to figure this out. And that's from the law standpoint. So that's powerful. And I was just listening to another podcast where people were trying to get out of their parking tickets, and they put a bug in their ear, the AI people, and it would listen to what was being said, and then it would feed back what they need to counter it with in their ear. And the lawyers sued, saying that there was some obscure law from the 1800s that says that if you aren't an actual lawyer, you can't practice law, and it's illegal. So it's just there's always these roadblocks that get put in the way because people are afraid that it's going to take their job, even though it just benefited someone who's not a lawyer. I mean, how many people can afford the best lawyers in the world? Because the rich get off, the poor go to jail because they make a stupid plea deal that they think is better than getting 20 years, so that instead they'll serve 5 years. It's just bullshit. And so if you have the ability to have an AI in your ear that can act as your lawyer and help you, of course the lawyers are going to be afraid of it, because no longer can they charge you $20,000 for a staple.
The legal profession is really going to be
decimated?
At odds with this. And so, especially on the easier low end stuff, there's no reason. I mean, we've already seen without AI, we've seen like Zoom, LegalZoom or something, which takes care of some of this minor legal stuff that would have cost you, a fortune not too long ago. And so with AI, I could definitely see you being able to handle a lot of this simpler kind of stuff yourself, rather than paying $800 an hour or whatever it is for an attorney.
Yep.
And I kind of wonder, though, if a lot of these tech nerds who are designing a lot of the stuff are going to be, coding themselves out of existence at some point, because some of these things that they're making, I mean, it's writing code now, so you don't really need to learn how to write code, because the AI could just do it for you.
You still may need to go in there and clean up things or find bugs or issues.
You will be editors.
Yeah. It's all interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Do you think it's gonna fundamentally change photography?
Well, I mean, with what Adobe has released and my MidJourney and the fact that you can make something out of nothing, it does change up the game. But you're still not replacing a photographer for photojournalism and live action. I mean, you're just not going to replace someone when you're shooting the World Series. Now, I do think that AI technology, which we saw put into play during the World Cup, where there were cameras that were mounted on gimbals and tracking devices, where the computer, you could tell it to follow the ball, and then it would trigger the shutter when action happens, or you could tell it to select a player and follow just that player and take photos. I think the technologies end up helping the photographers that know how to use the technologies. I think that that part's always the most important, is that we have like autofocus that tracks eyes continuously where we didn't have that 10 years ago. And so that helps me become a better photographer and capture things that I otherwise would have missed in the past. But I also use it to the full extent. We do have AI technologies being put into cameras tracking where they can track bodies, they can track body parts, heads, animals, eyes, all cars, birds, anything else you put into it, they start to teach the system how to track them. But at the end of the day, we still are creators. We still have to get the right composition, the right exposure. Even though auto exposures get better and better, you still need to react and be in the situation to capture the moment.
You're talking mostly about events. Obviously, this is a one-time event. You need to record it. Somebody's got to be there to do it. But, if you've got like model photography and, millions of shots for a catalog shoot for clothing line or something that's just going to go on the web, there's really no need to have a photographer.
Not if you can get the clothing digitally and then say put it on a model that weighs 123 pounds, put it on a model that weighs 160 pounds, put it on a model that looks like this, put it on an Asian model. Like that's something that companies are doing.
I can imagine models, maybe even like supermodels, like Anya Taylor-Joy or something, like licensing out your image.
And then still getting paid.
And getting paid. So you don't actually have to show up to a photo shoot, but we could legally call you Anya Taylor-Joy, even though it's just a computer generated image of you.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. For portraiture, but it's just fake. To me, it's fake.
Well, it still has problems. I mean, it's what's with the hands? Somebody needs to tell AI that humans have 5 fingers or 4 fingers and a thumb. I don't know, because it is really screwy on the hands.
I'm not sure why it can't get the fingers right yet. It's still, but I mean, we're still in
like
early days of some of this stuff.
Very much so.
But what how it's advanced in 6 months is pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. And I always just kind of ask myself, though, how much of this is hype? How much of it is really going to be revolutionary, life change? Because you hear people saying that this is the biggest, like, this is a sea change. This is something that is going to change the world in a way that we haven't seen in a century or something.
Like the internet, the cell phone,
like
mobile, app stores, metaverse, NFTs, right? So it's just, God, that still pisses me off when you listen to these people a couple years ago just spitting. Everybody was throwing around the term Web3 and NFTs and metaverse and saying that all this tons of money was being dumped into that stuff. Burnt. Like you gonna go buy, like, we gotta go buy real estate in the metaverse. And it's like, are you guys kidding me? Come on.
Yeah. Well, the NFTs, those were so tightly tied to crypto, and everything about them seems really scammy. They're still around. You know who just came out with an NFT is William Shatner. I just heard him on Mark Maron's podcast. And so he's a little late to the game, but who knows? Maybe I've never really fully understood the concept of an NFT.
I mean, I got it, but from a photography standpoint, I was like, no, I didn't dive in to sell those things. It didn't make any sense to me to do it. I get it. Like, I get from the fundamental standpoint of an artist that if you sell a piece of art today for $100 and it sells tomorrow for $1,000, that you technically get nothing out of it. In the NFT world, you could set any amount of price on the back end to say, every time it sells, I want 10%. And so every time it sells in perpetuity, 10% of the sale goes back into you, and you would continue to get it. But it's like, but as an artist, like, if you're not famous here and you create your Picasso or you're a Monet or Renoir, and you're doing this early work that someone Barnes from the Barnes Foundation was paying money to buy the stuff for like $300 or $1,000, and at some point you became rich and famous. Like, you sold your work. You sold that. Mm-hmm. You could have written a contract or something that says, no, I get money back, but no one would have done it.
Well, when the whole NFT thing really, took hold big, was when you started to see these stories about, somebody sold an NFT for $1 million or whatever.
$69 million for Bleeple.
Those were so rare. I looked at one of the apps where you could, one of these NFT exchanges, and like over 99% of them were just languishing there at like a penny or something. No, people were creating these things, but nobody was really buying and selling them. It just has this feel of of a scam to me.
Well, there's lots of that. I mean, you can look at the trading card industry now is all chase cards going after really like one of ones, and this is worth $1 million, and it's like it's gambling. A lot of it's gambling. A lot of it was pushed by gambling and perpetrated by gambling. And I wonder how AI is going to affect gambling, right? Someone running algorithms and trying to beat the system somehow. Yeah, like the movie Her, right? If you recall the movie Her, you had your in-ear device, and you were talking to an AI.
I just saw a really good AI movie. It's called Artifice Girl. Have you heard about this new movie?
No.
It was really good. I mean, I guess it's probably nothing, we haven't probably seen before about AI and kind of becoming sentient. And you kind of wonder if at some point, if the things we create are going to start to think for themselves in a way that's very similar to us.
Right. You never know.
It starts out as sci-fi and then it just becomes reality. It seems to me that now that sci-fi that I always remembered, seemed like that was like way far in the future. It's like all of a sudden, boom, it's there. Oh, you mean we got self-driving cars? Yeah, they're here. I thought this was going to be a much longer curve to get up to this point.
Right.
Still bowling?
I bowled the other day. I threw a 255. I had 7
Holy
strikes in a row to
shit.
start, 7 in a row, then left a 4-7, picked up the 7 pin, left the 4, so that was an open, then a 9 spare, then 2 more strikes and a 9 was 255.
That's your high score?
I think I've had a 260 something before, 266 maybe.
Damn. So you're working towards that perfect game, huh?
I am working towards it, but that's
you
12 strikes in a row.
You on a league?
I'm in a league, yeah. Some really good players in this league. I'm not the best at all, but every once in a while throw a really good
How does
game.
that work? You have like a team and then you go
4
through a
players.
season and then eventually the top teams play.
Yep. So you get 4 players, and if there's like 20 or 40 teams in the league, you bowl each team. You have a handicap. You have your scores. You play against each other. The team that has more pins wins, and and then you end up getting paid at the end of the season.
Oh, you're getting paid for this? Or I mean, at some
point.
point.
You put money in. It cost me $25 a week.
Oh, I see.
And then you can make money back at the end.
That's interesting. Are you at the point where you like read the lane for how it's waxed or whatever? Oiled.
It's all oil. So it's all dependent. As I'm a lefty, now that we talk about bowling, being a lefty means there's less people bowling on the left side of the lane, which means the oil doesn't break down as much, which means it stays more consistent for lefties, so you can get repeatable shots easier than a righty. Because if there's 8 people bowling on a pair, 2 lanes, that's 4 on each team. If there's 1 lefty, I'm the only one going up that left-hand side. If there's 7 righties, they're tearing up the oil pattern.
So you got the virgin oil.
Basically, it stays fresher longer so that you can be more consistent. Whereas the righties have to change the ball to a different cover stock, have to move their line because they may have worn out the line because it might break too early. There's a whole science behind this. I'm working on something for the last 2 years that's going to be a bowling thing. When it does happen, I'll show it to you. But it's we're getting somewhere.
What, you mean like a photography thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Just a bowling thing.
like a series type thing, like a real deal.
Oh.
Like a show type thing.
Oh, cool. I like it when you do those. You've dabbled in that before.
Yeah. This would just be the biggest thing yet.
Oh, really? Oh, when's that coming out?
We don't. We're working on something. That's the best I can give you. I've been working at it for 2 years, so it's
wow.
You never know. I mean, when it does, if it does, I'm a realist. I always say if. I'm not the you got to think positively into the world. Like when I'm like, that shit doesn't do anything. You can talk positive all you want, but the reality is still the reality. It has to happen.
Yeah.
You can be. I'm not a positive guy, so.
I think you're more positive than you think.
I'm positive, but I'm a realist. I'm realistic about expectations. As I tell people, I try not to get too high and I try not to get too low. Mm-hmm. If you don't get too high, you don't get too low. But there's those people that will celebrate every minor victory as if it was the World Series or the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they get super we did this. I'm like, this is only the beginning. But when they crash super hard because they do the both extremes. I tell everybody ebbs and flows. There's going to be good. There's going to be not good. It goes ebbs and flows. It comes around. It goes around. You find your way. Sometimes you win some. Sometimes you lose some. Don't get too high. Don't get too low.
What do you think about all these people? Like the trend right now is all this film photography.
Oh, you want to get me started on that?
But I mean, I used to do that. I used to develop film and make prints, and I loved it.
That's different. What you did is I fully encourage 100% people going out with a fully manual camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I had. In fact, I had a light meter I had to hold in my hand, you know?
I'm fully 100% okay with that. Where I draw a line is I get upset, not upset, but when anyone, doesn't matter how old they are, takes a point and shoot camera that's fully automatic, puts a roll of film in it, goes around, takes a bunch of pictures, takes it to get developed, doesn't go back to get their negatives or get prints because they send them the scanned files to their Dropbox and they download them and share them with the world and say, doesn't film look so good?
Yeah, what's the point?
And I say, just because your picture was taken with film doesn't mean that it can be poorly composed, exposed, or anything, and just because you shot it on film doesn't instantly make it better. And if you were just going to shoot it to get it scanned, then you defeat the whole purpose. You might as well have just shot digital.
Right.
But like I said, if you take it back to the fundamentals, you're using a light meter, you're taking the pictures manually, you're doing everything yourself, that's a challenge. And you want it to go even further, start developing your own negatives. Start printing your own black and white.
That was my job for years. I worked in a we made trade show exhibits, and I was in the photography area there, and we would develop and make prints. And I mean, there's so much to that where, you know, you can push and pull the film depending on how it was shot, and you know how you can, develop it a little longer. There's some nuance there. And then the printing with like literal dodging and burning. And it was a really fun artistic process.
It's amazing. I love the dark. I loved the dark room.
Yeah.
My take is I do like the fact that people want to learn something different. I also understand that there's a problem that people don't realize that film is sensitive to light. That they're under the impression that they take a picture. My guy who develops film, I was over at his place, and he said that a girl went across country on a trip, took a roll of film, and handed him the canister. He took it to the back where he was getting ready to pull the leader and put it through the machine, and he takes it out, and the film is wrapped around the cartridge, the film cartridge. It's not rewound into the film cartridge. So for those who don't know, literally the film is on the outside of the cartridge, which is a light-sensitive cartridge for a reason. So all of her stuff was exposed to light, and then nothing you could do with it once it's exposed. Literally, if you open the back of a camera for a split second and you're in light, you are going to expose that film, and it's going to be useless. Anything that was on it is no longer there because you exposed it to light. And so people don't know this. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not a 20-something's fault that they don't understand a technology that died out a while ago.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just the idea that people are romanticizing it.
Yeah, they do.
But it got me thinking, like, do I need to make basic content on this? And then you look back 10 years ago, I have how to load film into a camera. Like, I did this stuff.
Do people still shoot on view cameras? I used to shoot on a 4x5 view camera.
So my friend has a 4x5, and for those who don't know, 4x5 means the size of the negative is 4 inches by 5 inches. It's actually what Instagram is based off of is 4x5 aspect ratio. So you have a 4x5 aspect ratio. It's a large negative, which means it has an extreme amount of quality and detail to it, because the larger the negative, the better the image is going to be. It's like, just think of just much more quality. I'm trying to say it's not like 12 megapixels or 48 megapixels on a little sensor. It's a larger area, so you're gathering just cleaner image. Yeah, my buddy has a field view camera that he takes out, and he does 4x5 black and white. Then he goes and develops it in his house and then makes a picture.
But it's so cool because you can adjust like the parallax, you can make buildings square with the bellows in there. And I used to do some architectural photography with that. And it was a lot of fun.
Tilt shift. Tilt shift.
Yeah. Ansel Adams shot on an 8x10 view camera.
He did.
And contact prints. I mean, they're just absolutely stunning. And that there again, you have to, the film and the print go together. If there was a digital step in there, it would defeat that entire purpose.
It does. And with, what you just said, a contact print.
Yeah.
And so, for those who don't know, again, do you remember seeing? You used to make what's called a contact sheet.
Yeah.
So you would have. Remember when and I'm saying this to people at home. I'm just trying to take it
I
back
get
to the nostalgia days when you had negatives in a sheet. They were either cut in 4, which mean it was amateur and it was done at the photo hut.
That's true.
Or you did 5 or 6 as pros because you wanted a longer negative sheet. It was just better. But you would put that.
They would fit into a notebook. It was, you could keep them all in a notebook. All of these negatives. Mm-hmm.
And then you would basically put it in a glass back. And then you would squeeze it against a piece of paper and expose it to light as a contact sheet. So you're not actually putting a negative in a machine, and it's making an exact replica of of the negative, just a reverse of it. And so if you have an 8x10 negative and you put that on a piece of 8x10 photographic paper and you expose it to light, you are getting a 1-to-1 copy of that. You're getting the cleanest image that you could ever
brilliant.
get.
If you ever get a chance to see an Ansel Adams original print, they're stunning.
Yep. So anyway, that's going down a rabbit hole of tech, old school stuff that I still have in my brain that doesn't come out very often.
So I graduated from photography school right when probably at the worst time, because it's like 2 years later, all of a sudden digital photography was coming in, But I don't know. I think it was good because I learned kind of exposure that way. And I learned how to expose for highlights and to print for shadows and just to understand latitude and that whole range of tones. And a lot of times I see people when they'll shoot something digital and then they just use like a black and white filter, digital filter or whatever. And you could tell
that adds grain.
Yeah. And you just don't have that range of tones that you get when you're actually shooting black and white.
Yeah, Yes, don't get me started on most of that stuff.
But you know what I'm thinking about doing? I don't know if I really will or not, but I'm kind of thinking about starting to shoot my videos just using my phone.
No, don't do that.
Why shouldn't I? I mean,
because quality.
Okay, so last few times we've talked, I've told you I need to upgrade my camera, and I still haven't. And I've got this
Don't go the other way.
I've got this old Canon, and it shoots 1080p. It's not full frame. And so I've recently been like incorporating parts of my videos. I'll shoot on my phone because it's just handier and I can do quick things. And it's like, damn, this is 4K. This looks damn nice.
Yeah, but 4K from a tiny sensor is different than 1080 from a larger sensor. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you walk into a lower light situation, that's going to look like mush and shit from your phone. Whereas you can put a good quality lens on a camera and get quality. Do not go backwards.
don't do it.
I know it's easier, but if you want a new setup, there are some really easy cameras out there that are quality. I mean, Sony makes this thing called the ZV-E1, which is a new vlogging style camera that takes the innards from one of their more expensive cameras, and if you use it to its ability, you can get some great results. Put on good glass. Or Canon makes this full frame R8, which is a really tiny $1,500 full frame camera that has great video features. It doesn't have image stabilization, but you're locked off on a tripod. You put a good lens on it, the quality is going to be 8 trillion times better than anything your phone is going to do. Depth, color quality, sharpness, low light situations, focus tracking. I mean, the reason there's so much there's so much AI being done with computational photography or computational video when it comes to what the phone is doing, but do not step backwards. You got to separate yourself from everybody else making videos.
Look at what I'm doing is, so I don't need like motion tracking. I don't need any of that. All I do is set the camera on a tripod. I focus on what I'm building or doing, and then I hit the record button. I don't need any really special features. My current camera has a lot of special features. I never use them.
It's just you don't need special features. You just need to stick with the quality.
Good glass.
You would see.
I remember that last time you said
good
it's all about the glass.
Your cell phone is not replacing us for video. It's not replacing you for stills. The quality off of this is fine until it may be 4K, but it's not like 4K coming from a real camera.
Yeah.
images from this may look good on your phone, but it's not going to be like your phone, like your camera.
And I think a lot of people now, and you probably notice that when you're watching it, say YouTube on TV. A lot of people watch that on TV now, and when it's really large, maybe that's the difference.
Do you know how good my stuff looks on TV? I noticed it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, does it look good? Because we shoot it right. We shoot it with quality. And just the one thing we've always differentiated ourselves from everyone else is, well, we're a photography channel. It better look good. Mm-hmm. Nothing gets me more upset than looking at a photography or a creative channel that's about video or photos and their content looks like shit.
Right.
Because it's just how are you going to trust someone whose content looks terrible?
Yeah. Well, especially in the photo realm, you got to look good.
That's my take on that. My suggestion to you is do not try to go the other way.
Yeah,
and
probably
just
won't.
use a cell phone.
Yeah.
It's not quality.
It feels weird putting a cell phone on a tripod too.
I mean,
like
look,
weird.
Doug DeMuro does it for his car videos.
A lot of people do.
They don't look great, but his videos are fine. Would they be better? Would they look better if they were shot more cinematically? Sure. But that doesn't mean that it will be successful. But he's also just talking about cars. And I know you're just making wood. It's not just making woodwork, but I don't know. There's some skill. You want to make your wood look great. You're not going to use.
We all want our wood to look great.
You're not going to get some Chinese-made, bad-looking thing that falls apart. You want to make quality. So why would you?
Yeah, I get you.
You need the mini jib, the power
micro jig.
Micro jig.
I think I asked you this last time, but it's something I always think about is why shoot still photos? Why not just shoot video of everything and just take a screen cap of a shot? Because, I mean, that's how I do my thumbnails and everything, really. If I want to take, or even like photos for my newsletter, I just shoot video and then I just pick out the best frame.
Yeah, so you can do it with certain cameras. Like the Red cameras have red RAW.
I mean, this is with my crappy
stills.
Canon camera.
You can, but if you ever tried to enlarge that,
Well,
the quality that you're getting of it is not good.
But nobody's really enlarging photos anymore except you.
Everything. My prints on my wall are 4 feet by 6 feet.
Most people are just putting shit on Instagram.
They are, but it's not going to die. Like I have printers here. I print 17 by 22
Those
inches.
look really good.
They do look fantastic.
They do.
They're not going to look fantastic if they were shot poorly and cropped and enlarged and looking like shit.
Let me give you this scenario. Say you're shooting a baseball game, and it's just going to be on a website or maybe a newspaper or something. It's not going to be enlarged, probably. Why not just shoot video and then just take those caps? Or do they do that?
Some people do it. But you also have to shoot it a certain way.
Because then you always get that.
Fast
you
enough.
always get that moment, right? If you do it that way.
Well, you do, but also the technology in my cameras these days give me the ability to shoot 150 frames per second RAW with the Canon R3. So I can get that entire swing. Now, that is almost shooting video. I mean, when you're shooting, the R8 I was telling you is $1,500. You can shoot at 40 frames a second. Now, it's for 1 second, but cinematic video is at 24 frames a second. You're shooting twice as fast as video. So it's going to get to the point where these things are continuously recording individual frames, and also that can be video where you will be plucking things out. We're almost basically there now. I also think the next technologies, which exist in some extent in some of the Nikon cameras, is pre-shooting and post-shooting. So if my finger's pressed halfway down on the button and then I press it fully, it was still recording a second before and a second after, because sometimes you're late. By the time you see it in the viewfinder, it's already gone. So if you see it and you react, well, it already has stored in the buffer a second worth of RAW files, and then writes that to the card after you press the button and continues to take the pictures that you're taking. So we're at a point where what you're saying is a reality. But yeah, I mean, it's going to continue to evolve and change.
How's Sammy Davis Jr. Kitty doing?
He's good. He's still purring. He's still a good kid. He still has one eye, and he just loves people.
I love seeing him on your Instagram. How old is he?
He's either 6 or 7. He's around 6 or 7. I adopted him, and he was 1 or 2 or so. Right.
Yeah. You made a comment about pet adoptions the other day I think it was on your podcast.
No, it was on an Insta story.
Insta
I was walking
story,
past
that's what it was. Yeah.
A store, and they're like, adoption fee $525. I mean, call it what it is. And someone said though that maybe it was they are adopted, not a puppy mill, but I mean, when you say adoption fee of $36, adoption fee of $72, that's an adoption fee, and that goes back to an organization. When you're saying $525, you're just buying the dog,
right?
And so it might be a little subconscious subliminal thing where it's like where the people are like, yeah, I adopted the dog. I had to pay. I gave him $1,000 so they can say they adopted the dog. It looks better on a dating profile.
Well, people always say that. They love to say, "Oh, he's my rescue dog."
Well, if you go to the pound and you go to the SPCA and you go to one of these paws or you go to these places that do that, then sure, you go to somewhere to buy a dog. It's a different story. Like people just get so worried about what everybody else is going to think.
I know you're working on getting that pole removed from the sidewalk too. I just saw that today on your Instagram. It's like a big wooden 4x4 post right in the middle of the sidewalk.
Yes, right in the middle of the sidewalk.
Well, it looks like they're doing some construction, so they're going to be working on that, right? Is that what the thing is?
The construction people absolutely put this pole in there. Because it wasn't there before they started.
It's like
the construction.
embedded in the concrete, isn't it?
They put the concrete around it, or they cut a hole and they put it there. So to paint the picture for everybody, in Philly, there's a lot of construction everywhere. Now, when they're doing construction and they close a sidewalk, they put up these orange barriers that you then it goes into the street and you can walk. So they give you a place to walk. Well, it ends at the end of this construction area where there's cars parked. So if you want to get back onto the sidewalk, you can go on the sidewalk, but there's a old pole from like 20 years ago that's there. Then there's a new 4x4 massive pole that's like 7 feet tall that's in the middle of the sidewalk, and then there's one more to the right. So if you're in a wheelchair, you're not going to be able to get past it. If you have a stroller, you're not going to be able to get the stroller past it. And if you have a big ass, you're not going to be able to fit through it. So I basically go and make videos where I go and kick the pole and tell the pole to go fuck off. And one day maybe I'll go to the site and be like, guys, I just want to call the regulators and be like, guys, how is this okay to have in the middle of the sidewalk? Because I'm thinking of my friend in a wheelchair. Like, how's he supposed to get?
It's an ADA problem, yeah.
Yeah, what do you want people in the street?
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, it's probably just temporary. I'm sure they're working on something big there.
5 months. It's been there for 5 months.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh shit. And then that is a problem. Yeah, that's an ADA issue.
I may make a call.
Yeah, man, get on that. Well, you know what I'm doing this year? First time in ages. I'm going to VidCon.
Well, you live close by, but other than that, I don't know why you would go to that.
I haven't been since, I think, 2017 or 18.
It has nothing to do with YouTube anymore. It's all tickety talk.
Probably. I don't know what it's. Oh, I don't know what
when
to
is
expect. It's this month. It's in like 3 weeks, June. I'm going to go. Chad and I were going to go there. And we kind of thought, well, we can meet up with a bunch of people we've had on our podcast, and
that's cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun to do that. But I know it's just good. It's a crazy zoo.
Well, let me know how it goes.
I'll start making TikTok videos when I come back. Jared, it was great talking to you.
All right, man. Thanks for having me as always.